It was the last night of 1989, and the cold in Mansfield, Ohio, felt sharper than usual. Snow blanketed everything in white, wrapping the world in a strange silence. 11-year-old Collier Landry lay in bed, eyes heavy with sleep. The house around him was quiet except for the soft buzz of the heater pushing warmth through the vents. The red numbers of his alarm clock glowed gently. 3 a.m. Then he heard something. Loud thud. Then another. Dull and heavy. Collier sat up, his heart pounding hard in his chest. The sound had come from his parents' bedroom. He listened, frozen in place, waiting for footsteps, a voice, anything. But the house had gone still. Too still. He lay back down, but sleep wouldn't return. His thoughts swirled. Something felt wrong. Deep in his chest, he already knew. Something terrible had happened. Morning came. And with it, confusion. His mother, Noreen, was gone. Dr. John Boyle, Collier's father, told him she had left. That they'd had an argument and she needed space. But Collier didn't believe that for a second. He knew his mother. She would never leave him. Not without saying goodbye. Not without taking him along. Not without a hug. She hadn't even taken her car. Days passed. Then a week. No calls. No notes. No sign of her at all. Friends and neighbors started to accept what Dr. Boyle was saying. That Noreen had run away. That maybe she just couldn't handle things anymore. But Collier never accepted it. She would never leave me, he said quietly to the police. He meant it. The house felt empty. Cold. His father barely spoke. And Collier started noticing more strange things. His dad was spending a lot of time away. One day, Collier saw a moving truck outside the house before sunrise. Another day, he saw his father cleaning the garage in the middle of the night. Then there was the sudden appearance of a woman named Sherry Campbell. Dr. Boyle introduced her as a friend, but she was always around now. Smiling, laughing, sleeping over. Collier didn't understand everything, but he understood enough to feel that something was terribly wrong. One day, a detective named David Messmore knocked on the door. He wasn't like the other officers. He didn't speak in a rush. He looked Collier in the eye and asked how he was doing. He came back the next day. And the next. He listened. Collier began to trust him. He told Messmore about the thud. About the strange silence. About how his mom never would have left him. He mentioned the moving truck. The new house his father had suddenly built. Detective Messmore's instincts were sharp. He'd worked missing person cases before, but something about this one stuck to his bones. He started digging. And what he found made his blood run cold. Dr. Boyle had built a brand new house just outside of town. He had already moved in with Sherry Campbell. And the house had a freshly poured concrete floor in the basement. Just a few days after his wife vanished. That was more than suspicious. Messmore got a search warrant. They brought in jackhammers. The noise echoed through the unfinished house as they broke into the concrete. Dust rose into the air. Then the hammer hit something soft. Plastic bag. Inside was a blanket. Inside the blanket was Noreen Boyle. She had been beaten, strangled, buried. She was still wearing her wedding ring. The silence of that New Year's Eve had finally spoken. Dr. John Boyle was arrested that day, charged with the murder of his wife. Collier, only 11, became the key witness. When the trial began, the courtroom was packed. Reporters, family, strangers, all wanting to understand how a respected doctor could become a killer. And then Collier took the stand. He was small, fragile, but his voice didn't shake. He told them everything. Thuds, the silence, his father's strange behavior, The early morning moving truck. The jury listened. The defense tried to cast doubt. They tried to say Collier was confused, that he had imagined things. But he didn't waver. And after 6 long weeks, the jury returned with a verdict. Guilty. Dr. John Boyle was sentenced to life in prison. Justice at last. But for Collier, the real journey was just beginning. He didn't go back to the Yellow House. Instead, he was placed in foster care. The homes were kind, but they weren't his. He moved often, never staying too long. He felt like a stranger in every room. But he kept his mother's memory close. She had been full of love and laughter. She taught him to draw, to dream. As he grew, he changed his name, from Boyle to Landry. It was his mother's maiden name. A way to honor her. A way to shed the shadow of the man who stole her life. Collier found strength in art. He began writing, filming, creating. He went to film school and built a career behind the camera. But the story of his childhood stayed with him. In 2017, he decided to share it. He made a documentary called A Murder in Mansfield. Took him back to the beginning, to the house, to the courtroom, to the truth, and even to the prison where his father was serving life. They sat across from each other, father and son. Collier asked him why. Asked him to admit what he had done. But the man who had taken everything still refused to speak the truth. Still, Collier walked away from that meeting with something important. He had faced the past, faced the monster, and walked out whole. Today, Collier Landry speaks across the country. He tells people to trust their gut, to speak up. He reminds them that even when you're small and scared, your voice matters. He turned his pain into a light for others. The murder of Noreen Boyle wasn't just a crime. It was a story of silence, of lies, of buried truths. But it was also a story of courage. Of a boy who refused to forget. Of a detective who listened. And of a fight for justice that was not in vain. Collier's journey reminds us all. The truth may be buried, but it can still rise. And when it does, it brings with it something powerful, hope. For Noreen. For every child waiting to be heard. And for the brave boy who became a man and never gave up. Collier Landry did not just survive. He showed the world how to fight back with truth. And how to love even when everything has been taken from you. Because love, like truth, can never be buried for long. It always finds its way back to the surface. And when it does, it changes everything. Forever. Collier still dreams of his mother sometimes. Her voice. Her hugs. Her laughter. And in those dreams she is proud. Smiling. Free. Because her son, her little man, kept his promise. He told the world what happened. He told the truth. And the truth set them both free. Forever remembered. Forever loved. Forever heard.